The best part about this movie finally coming out is that I don't be forced to watch this trailer over and over and over again every time I go to the theaters. But is this remake of a critically acclaimed 2022 Danish thriller worth it of all those months of annoyance? Let's talk about it. Directed by James Watkins, a dream holiday turns into a living nightmare when an American couple and their daughter spend the weekend at a British family's idyllic country estate as tension boils and stakes rise. Having seen the 2022 Danish version of this film, really enjoying it and it being a pleasant surprise. Well, it wasn't really a pleasant film to say, but a pleasant surprise because it wasn't on my radar. I just so happened to watch it. I was coming into this trying to see what the American remake was going to bring to the film, to the themes. Was it worth it? Because the Danish film is mostly in English, so you can just watch. Is this a soulless cash grab? And I gotta say, while the setup for the film and some of the beats are similar, the execution of this film is very different from that movie. The Danish film taps into the aptitude for that culture to have a people-pleasing like mentality, in terms of not making anybody feel comfortable, always saying yes, not really saying no, and letting things happen to them and leading to terrible things. The American version with this movie, and kind of British, because kind of British and American, is more looking at our social structures and how sometimes we can let things pile on that annoy us and can boil over into bigger arguments. There are many moments our antagonists Patty and Sierra, things that overstep boundaries, so societal boundaries over and over, where we're waiting for the protagonist to do something and they kind of resist but don't resist fully enough. And it's kind of this push and pull cat and mouse game throughout the whole film that makes this uncomfortableness, to the point where so many people in our theater were like, oh my god, you can hear sighs, and somebody was like, oh hell nah, multiple times throughout the film, because everybody's just like, why won't you say something? It's this frustrating feeling, but you also kind of understand where they're coming from, where you don't want to make them a big deal. There's a manipulation there where you feel guilty every time you lash out, and I really enjoyed that tug and pull, versus where the Danish film kind of had this uneasing dread because you knew something was going on but not too sure what. Here it just felt like a drama where these two families were just going through this weird moment. The main reason for that one, unlike the Danish film, this movie swings, it pendulums between uneasing tension and comedy. This movie's a lot funnier than I expected to be, and there's a lot of moments, uncomfortable moments and drama that happens that builds and builds, and then bookended by some comedy that makes you laugh. But it's the kind of comedy that doesn't break the tension, because it's kind of those laughs that you have when something so outlandish happens or somebody says something so outlandish that all you can do is laugh uncomfortably, like, what is going on? And that tightrope that they play between drama, tension, and comedy works because of the fantastic cast. A lot of people are going to be talking about James Mcavoy coming out of this film because he put on one of the best performances of his career. He does a phenomenal job playing this British, charming, mysterious, but dangerous man that's hulking in physique, but kind of like a playboy where you want to hang out with him and see what he's all about until he becomes too much. And a lot of that tension and comedy that I was talking about early is on his back. He does a lot of heavy lifting. It's a lot of him showboating and having a flashy performance that works and never gets cartoony. It felt like it could have gotten there, but he holds it back just enough for it to still have like a realistic tone and feel like someone you know in real life. But he wasn't the only outstanding antagonist in this film, but a lot of people are going to be talking about him, and a lot of people have talked to him, rightfully so. But Ashlyn Franchosi, who I'm slowly becoming a fan of, she was in The Last Voyage of Demeter, did a great job in there. She was in this year's Stop Motion on Shudder, she did a great job in there, and she does a fantastic job. She's a very dynamic actress, where she plays this character who's the wife to James McAvoy's Patty, and you don't know where her allegiance lies throughout the film. Like, she feels like she may be in all on the sinister plan here, but towards like the middle and the third act of the film, you feel like, I'm not 100% sure if you're all in on what's going on here, and if you know, that decision of like what is going on with this character is played out all until the end of the film. And what makes it great and why she compliments McAvoy so well is because he's playing this unhinged, very flashy character that you know for sure is up to no good, while what she's doing is a lot subtler, but as important, and balances really well. It adds some of the comedic moments. And on the protagonist side, Mackenzie Davis, who I'm also a fan of, she's been in a couple things that I really like, is fantastic, equally as fantastic as McAvoy Mcavoy in here. She is the audience reaction. Her facial reactions throughout this movie as outlandish and crazy things are happening were hilarious, and she had the right reaction to all the stuff that was happening where you were about to have that reaction. You see it in her face, you're like, girl, I understand where you're coming from. What the hell is going on? And she's, looking towards her husband to do something, and that's kind of the problem why things keep escalating, because she's trying to refer to her husband, Ben, to stick up and do something. And let's talk about Ben, right? Veteran character actor Scoot McNairy, who's been in tons of films, seen him in tons of movies before, plays Ben, and I think his role is as important to some of the themes and kind of bringing some of the themes over from the Danish version of the film here. He seems like a coward and gutless and has no backbone throughout the film. And while that was true for the character in the 2022 original film, I feel like this version was written in a way where it's a little bit more layered. There's a little bit more drama and added character arc here that makes you kind of understand where he's coming from and why he's the way he is. So his manhood has been challenged a lot throughout the film before the film even starts, so it affects how he reacts to a lot of things that's happening here. So the fact that he won't stick up, but then Mackenzie is looking to him to what to do, causes a lot of things that escalate. And I gotta give a shout out to James Watkins, who writes and directs this adaptation of the Danish film. I think he did a great job while also paying tribute to that film, because this movie is almost beat for beat same film for the first two acts. A lot of the same things you see in the first film will feel familiar if you saw it in this one. If you haven't seen that one, they're still executed really well, and there's things in here in terms of dialogue and the salaciousness of how he performs some of the stuff that makes it very different and feels different from the Danish film, what makes it worth checking out. And what differentiates this and makes it worth being a remake is the third act, because the third act is a lot more thrilling. It's a lot more fast paced. This movie is paced way faster than the older film, and is way more bombastic in the third act and what happens. Not only does the third act being the way it is fundamentally changes the film overall, all the themes and things like that the Danish version had is very different from here, because this one leans more into upbringing and who your parents are and how you choose to do different things based on who your parents are versus just cultural differences, which I found very interesting and I feel like makes more sense, because I think that's more of a conversation topic in America than it is other places, and it really makes it worth it to have that kind of substance. While I feel like the Danish version was a little bit more bleaker, had more substance, it had more of a lesson and something to say, this version of the film goes for more of an entertainment value. So it lacks a little bit of the substance here, but it's more easier to digest the message and have fun with it. I think that the Danish version, it was hard for like a rewatch of that film, because I did feel like the pacing was kind of slow. Some of the first act and second act could feel a little boring, while here it's more entertaining because the comedy is injected in it. We have more flamboyant performances that are more likable and maybe more relatable for American audiences. And I think that while both films are great, and I think they are companion pieces, instead of, one being like, oh, we have this one already, we didn't need this one, I think they both work really well because they hit on different cultural points and have completely different endings. The best comparison I gotta say is that the Danish film is like you sitting in a classy restaurant waiting for your 5-star meal to be cooked, and it takes about 20-30 minutes for it to get there. With the American version, it's like you're in a hibachi joint watching them cook the food. All the flashiness stuff is happening. You're having a fun time until you get your full serving. That's I think the big difference here between two versions of film. No one is better than the other. It just depends on what you feel like digesting at the time. With all that said, I had a great time with this film. The movie over-delivered. I felt like it wasn't going to be anywhere near the original film, where I think it actually matches the original film and actually is more rewatchable because it's just a lot more entertaining and you can show it to more people and have a good time. This is something you can turn on and like a group watch party and everybody could be into it because the fun performances and the uncomfortable craziness that creates a salacious vibe. With that said, I'm gonna give Speak No Evil a B. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Speak No Evil? Did you like the original Danish version more than this one, or do you think they're equally as good, or do you think that this one might be better? Drop all those comments down below and let me know how you feel. If you like my review, hit that like button and attack that subscribe button to join the community, and hit the notification bell to be notified of my reviews, reactions, live discussions, and much more. You can watch more content.